The SUMIFS function is an extension to the SUMIF function. So the plural here is because if you want to have multiple criteria to be satisfied, that is when you will use the SUMIFS function. So let's elaborate this a little bit. So here I have the same data sheet as we have seen in the previous video, but over here my requirement is slightly different. I want to find out the total revenue based on two criteria being satisfied. That is, the sales rep should be Trevor Jones and the product sold should be Majestic Butte, right? So if these two conditions are satisfied, only then I will add up the revenue values. So okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to use the SUMIFS function. Okay, fine. Since I have multiple conditions, I'm using the SUMIFS function. So let's see how the parameters are. So the first parameter is the sum range. So it is slightly different from how we approach the SUMIF function. The parameters are slightly different in its order. So the first parameter here is the sum range. That is, what is it that we want to add up? So we want to add up the revenue column. So since it is a table, I'll refer to the table number. So the table number here is table 7. So as I mentioned earlier, you can go in and change the table number to something, table name to something that is more meaningful to your data set. So I've selected table 7 and the entire data sheet has got selected here. Perfect. So the sum range is the revenue column. So within square brackets, I'm going to mention revenue. Perfect. So that is my sum range. And then it is asking me for the criteria range 1. So I can have multiple criteria using the SUMIFS function. So the first criteria range that I'm referring to is the sales rep. So what I'll do is I'll again provide the table and then I'll provide the column which is sales rep. Cool, that's fine. And then what should it match? So what is the criteria? So it should match Trevor Jones, the sales rep that I've mentioned over here. So it should match that. So I'm going to select it. And then I have to provide the second criteria range. The second criteria range is the product. So I'm going to provide the product as well. So I will provide the table name and provide the column number, column name, that is product. Okay, perfect. I'll close the square bracket. And then the criteria is that it should match Majestic Butte, the product that we have listed over here. Perfect. That's it. That's all we need. So we provided the sum range. Then for the first criteria, we provided sales rep. And then we gave in the criteria value, which is Trevor Jones. And then the second criteria was the product. So we provided the product range and then assigned the criteria, which is Majestic Butte. So both these conditions should be satisfied, only then it will add up the revenue. So now I'll just execute the formula and it returns the revenue as 160. So let's have a quick look at this. So if I were to filter Trevor Jones, so let me just filter Trevor Jones and let's look at Majestic Butte as well. So that's right. So it did give the revenue as 160. So it works perfectly, right? So this is how I go about and use the SUMIFS function to apply multiple criteria. So the best part about this is I can have as many criteria as possible. There's no limitation there in terms of how many criteria you would want. But then we would always want to keep our formula simple. The whole logic should be a lot more simple. So try to keep minimum conditions so that your data becomes a lot more meaningful.